you ready to Snapplique? This video is part of a series for the Happy Halloween quilt by Amy Bradley Designs. Snapplique is an automated method to take a paper quilt pattern, scan it into the ScanNCut, and convert it into a machine embroidery design. You can even use the ScanNCut to cut out all your pieces. You'll be able to create blocks like this for your quilt with an embroidery machine and no longer have to go around each individual piece with a domestic sewing machine. This method is a lot of fun and it's a real time saver, and I hope you join me. Let's get to it. I'm getting ready to put all of my print and stick target paper together so that I know everything's going to line up just fine. When you have them print on more than one page, don't pay attention to these letters. That was a misprint. I didn't print horizontal like I should have. So I'm going to trim out just the letter that I need, and I want to get it as close as possible to the edge of the letter, as close as possible without cutting off the letter. And this print and stick target paper, sometimes it's not cut straight from the manufacturer. I'm going to throw that away. Okay. So this comes with a line on it right here. The side has a light line, all right? And like this goes right there. So what I like to do is to just go ahead and get these taped together so that they fit. And I need to trim off this line. And the line is straight, okay? And then what's also straight, even if your paper's not straight, what also is straight are the crosshair markings that you got on the page. So what you can do is, like on this one, I've got these crosshairs like this. I'm going to extend that crosshair and I'm going to put my ruler on it so that it's straight in the middle and straight on this side. And then I can mark with a pencil. I can mark it right here as well, okay? And then I can line up that straight crosshair with the crosshair that's on that other piece. So it can be done. It just takes a little bit of thinking about it to get it to work. So I'm going to pull the backing off, and I'm going to continue to do this for all of the pieces because none of them went on a single page. Okay, I want to get this exactly right. I'm lining up. So I'm lining up not only the sides of the end, but the crosshair. Okay, I got that right. I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to put the back on it again. You definitely want to keep your backing for this print and stick target paper. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just reinforce it with a little Scotch tape so that it doesn't. There. So all this is really going to do is just give me an idea of how far away from the edge of the fabric that last end is going to go. So Happy is also, I think I can get all in one hooping. Okay, so I have all my templates ready now to be able to place the designs on the big long piece of fabric. And when you're doing that, you don't necessarily pay attention to the lines here. You don't have to do that. You want to place them according to what looks good, okay? So like I would move this a lot closer and put it, you got to put it exactly like the pattern would want you to put it. But that's how it's going to stitch out, and it's going to look amazing. That's very cool. Okay, so I'm ready now to get that background fabric quilted. To prep my paper template for the background quilting, I did the same thing as for the letters, trimmed off that little bitty extra and then taped them down together. And now I want to trim this as close as possible to the stitch lines. That's going to allow me to accurately line up the designs when they're ready to nest with each other. the closer to a good, perfect visualization that you can get, all the better. That's going to help you get everything lined up. Now, if you're stitching well outside of the finished block size and you're just going to trim it down, that's fine. But again, this is going to give you a good visualization. Okay. So I just need to run this 4 times on my background fabric. The background fabric for the letters is fabric 2. I've got my batting laid out. This is a great use of batting scraps too, because you can just stitch scraps together. I used a join stitch right here, and it's gonna work just fine. This is a wonderful use of batting scraps, these kinds of projects. And the finished block is 12 by 41. I've laid out my tape measure and I've got my long ruler on top of it. And I'm just going to use a friction marker, and I'm going to mark the 41 on both sides of that and down here at the 1, so that I can get a real good idea of where this is gonna be. I'm just trying to give myself some boundaries, and it's 12 by 41. This is a 12-inch ruler right here, and I just want to make sure I got plenty. I've got that on the 41. I'm just going to mark here and mark here. Okay, this will iron away. That's going to give me my boundary right there. I'm going to do the same thing down here and get my corners. Now, I've got to make sure I got it straight, but I've got the vertical lines here, and then I just need to get it straight so that it's not crooked as it's cut. All the way down, this piece of fabric is 11, let me see, 13, let me make sure it's straight. This is 13 3/4 all the way down. Yeah, this is 13 3/4 all the way down. From this edge, this line is at the 3/4 inch mark. This corner is at the 3/4 inch mark. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to mark 3/4 of an inch all the way down. And then I want to mark 12 inches down from this one. And this is going to give me my 12-inch guidelines. Now I can stitch outside of that, that's fine. I just don't want to, because I want to cut it with the trimmer by George. And in order to do that, I've got to have no stitching outside of this area. It won't let you trim it if you've got stitching. If you want, you can certainly trim in the hoop. This looks really good. I'm crossing my fingers that this is gonna work. It should. Now I have my lines on here to show me exactly where my template needs to go, and I can line this up right in here just like this. Oh, and it fits perfect. That's awesome. I'm going to have to do 4 passes of this, and then what you can do if you have a paper pattern is go ahead and fold it on the crosshairs, top, bottom, side to side, north, south, east, and west. Fold it on the crosshairs so that it folds easily. Sometimes the paper is better for this than the if you stitch it out on stabilizer, because stabilizer doesn't like to fold very easily. It's a little more durable, but it doesn't like to fold. Now I'm going to fold it the other direction. Get it so it likes to fold. Excellent. Now what I can do is I can take this design, put it exactly where I want it to be inside of my guidelines. I'm going to fold it in half. You can either put a print and stick, you can either put a target sticker right there, or if you don't have a target sticker, just get your ruler on there and mark one way and then mark the other way. Make sure You haven't gone outside of your guidelines and marked the edge. This is old school, you guys. This is old school. It's how we did it before we had all these fancy stickers. If you have a snowman sticker, you can use that. If you have a dime sticker, you can do that. There's where I know to start center on this design. If you have a dime target sticker, these have a crosshair with an arrow. You can, again, get it easily folded. Line it up exactly where you want it on your guidelines. Fold it in half. And sometimes it helps to mark the half mark on your paper. See, it's different. Let me see. Did I go? Yeah, move that right there. There we go. And then you can take your target sticker. I'm going to do it this way. And just put your target sticker so that half of it is sticking out from underneath your template. And the line on the sticker lines up with the line on your paper. And that's it. That's how you align that. Now, when this gets finished, what I'm going to do, let me mark over here. I'm going to mark, this is my right, and this is my left, and this is the top, and this is the bottom. Because I can't tell what's what here. Now, what I'm going to do after this finishes stitching, I don't want to touch it exactly to the far side of this, but I am going to align it with enough space between these two pieces that I've got a nice little gap there. And you won't be able to tell that it wasn't done all at one time. I think this is going to work. Let me see. I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to line this back up where it was exactly. And now I'm going to mark a mark over here in the center, and a mark on the edge, and a mark on the edge. And then, so that way I know where the edge is going to be, I can just kind of line it up again, maybe a 1/4 of an inch away from that mark. 1/4 of an inch away from the mark, just to make sure everything's going to fit. I'm going to do hash mark this way, hash mark this way. I'm going to put my little hash marks over here. This is where I've got this outer edge. And now let me do them over here again and mark these. I'm going to do about 1/4 of an inch away because they're not going to touch. This looks good. I'm going to mark center and center, not moving the paper. And then down here to this side, at this end, oh, that's not going to fit. See, now I need to go back and figure out what the issue was. Okay, here's the edge, edge, and edge. These two, the ones on the ends matter. Do those first. And then you can fiddle with what you're going to do in the middle. Okay, the ones on the ends matter. I'm going to use a different color ink. I've got my pink here. Okay, so these need to be maybe not quite so far apart. I put them too far apart. Now let's put this here. And I'm going to put these hashes. Okay, I'm giving myself some more room in the middle, just not putting them quite so far apart. Maybe about 1/8 of an inch instead of a full 1/4 inch. And that looks like that's working a little bit better. Okay, good. Yeah. That's the ticket there, and that lines up. Must have been just that third one. I'm okay with this. I think it's going to stitch out just fine. If I put this right here on this, like 1/8 of an inch away. Yeah, that works. This one's good. This one is good. This one is good. And that one's good. All right. Now I know it's going to stitch out and work. What I'm going to do now is get some no-show mesh and get this in the hoop. Top of the hoop. Put that right there. Let me get my hoop mat. That's going to make my life easier. I have this dime hoop mat. I really like this because my hoop doesn't slide around on my cutting mat, and I've got this nice dark line right here. And I've just kind of found center on my 4 sides and I'm lining, I put a Sharpie mark on those. This is the Designs and Machine Embroidery magnetic hoop. I'm just lining this up. And then what this does is it allows me, since this is center, I'm gonna take the center of the dot and I'm gonna place it on the center here. And it just needs to be pretty close because otherwise you may have your machine tell you that you need to switch to a larger hoop when you don't. This looks pretty good. That's looking pretty good. Okay. I'm gonna put this on here like this, and I'm gonna align this by standing this up like this. This is gonna get way close to the edge of the hoop. I don't want that. I've got to look at these edges. That's not gonna work. I want it right out here. It's gonna hit the metal. That's not gonna work. It's gonna tell me, nope, you may not do that. We're gonna do it like this. Well, Becky, your brain, this was fine. If you have extra fabric, put it hanging off the side over the arm, the embroidery arm. There we go. That's gonna fit. Duh. All right. I'm gonna stand it up like this on the edge. I make sure these edges are even here. And let me have the corrugated plastic to lay this down. Set that on there, and then I'm going to just pull it out like this. It's going to give me a nice hooping. Okay. Very good. All right, I'm ready to stitch this out. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. I am going to go to embroidery and the pocket for memory. And we're real close to center, but not quite. I need to thread my needle. I've got the matching green thread in and a white bobbin. I'm gonna go to wireless, and here's my background quilting. And it says it extends outside of the embroidery frame, and you gotta rotate the combo. I'm gonna tell it okay. It's good, and I'm gonna tell it set. Excellent. Now what I need to do is to get a crosshair exactly on my center. And the way to do that in this machine is to go into embroidery, and then up here there is a W over your embroidery foot. That's your W foot, and it will downward display the crosshair. Then I'm going to go into layout and rotate, and I'm going to hit the jog buttons until I get it right where I want it to be. That's pretty close to perfect. I'm just going to lift my sticker and just press go and let it do its thing. Let's see how it does. I absolutely love this. It is so crazy cute. Isn't that adorable? What a great background quilting design for this block. It's time to go do the alignment for the next pass. Now, a very cool thing you can do with these magnetic hoops is to just lift it up. I need another piece of stabilizer. You can just lift this up and off. And you can roll this, get it out of the way. I'm gonna put another piece of stabilizer on this hoop. And I'm going to use some Wonder Clips. And I'm just going to clip the top and bottom of the stabilizer to the frame right now, the bottom of the hoop, just to hold the corners in place. And now I'm going to roll this. Okay. And let me get center about under that needle. I'm going to tell it okay. So it thinks it's right on center now. Smooth this out. And I need my template one more time just to be sure. If that's center right there, then I can tell this is going to work pretty good. Let's see. I want that about right there. Let me move this. Yep. I've got it lined up right with my hash marks. Excellent. I want to put this back on. I'm going to set it right on the edge. Put this in here. I'm going to remove my Wonder Clips and slide this. This is the beauty of these dime magnetic hoops. Look at that. It may not be completely straight. That's okay. I've got the template and I'm looking at where the template, the edge of the design is compared to the last line of the design that it just did. I'm getting it straight in my markings right here. This looks pretty good. Okay, I want to do my W on my screen to find center, and it's almost right on. I'm going to nudge it up just a hair. That looks perfect. I like it. That's good. I'm ready to go again. We are all finished with the background quilting on this. I love it. Turned out great. Just great. I love the dots on here. It's perfect. I'm getting ready to take a hot iron and get rid of all of, my little marks. Now, I'm not going to trim this down until everything's all done. I'm ready to put the quilt together. But I am going to trim off all of the excess stabilizer. Okay. There, all of the marks are gone. When you use the markers, use the friction markers, fine liner markers. Don't use the pens. The pens can ghost. And if you do that, then just some cool water. I should wash it off, so maybe some soap and water. We'll take it off. This looks great. I've gotten rid of all of the marker marks. I guess I should have left those outside ones on. I'm going to just put this in the center. And I'm just kind of looking on the edge of the fabric where the edge of the stitching is. I want it centered there. My pattern now, and I'm just going to kind of make sure that on center, that A on Halloween is on center. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to focus this way. And I'm going to leave this stabilizer on it. I'm going to leave these edges out here so I don't have to use more stabilizer. All I did was, you can trim away a little bit, but this will be fine like this. It's not going to change the hand of the quilt. I want to get my stitched ends together. Here is center, and I'm going to mark it center. Just going to put a little mark right on that fold. Now I know that the A in Hallow goes right about there. And that's the way the designer has it. And let's make sure the W is right up here, right next to that O, very close, a little bit of green between them. I can see that this line through the center is working. On the Hallow and the Y are about the same distance from the edge. This looks, let's see, I have, all right, I'm going to do 1 inch over here on this side from the edge. And I'm going to do 1 inch over here on this side from the edge of the stitching to the edge of the letters. It really helps to trim your letters real close to the edges there. This looks good. I'm liking it. Yep, this is going to work. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is just pull off the sticky paper. And the nice thing about this is you can reposition it. Let me come in 1 inch from here and get the Y and the H about where it is. That looks great. And I'm going to do this side now. Get it to come in again 1 inch from the edge of the stitching. I need these to be center. From here to here is 11.5. The center is going to be 5. Yep, we're too high. I'm going to play around with getting these just right. That looks really good, and I like it a lot. I think it's going to look amazing. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to put the letters on now. Show you. See how the P's overlap? They like to hang out on top of each other. I've got an overlap going there on that P. And you kind of have to think through this a little bit. So I want one single stitch with jumps in between the H, the A, the lower P, and the Y. And then I'm going to pull the hoop and go iron all of those letters down. And then I'm going to do the final blanket stitch on those letters after I get those ironed on. Then I change the placement line color in the software to a different color for the placement line of the P that sits on top. I don't want it stitching at the same time as the others. And the only way to do that is to change its color, create a different color stop. I created a different color, and it doesn't matter which one, for the placement line for the top P, and then it'll do the final stitch, you know, the blanket stitch on top of that. It sounds kind of confusing, but once you get the knack of how to do color sorting, it's wonderful. And it changes your life because of the efficiency of it and how quickly you can get things done. I'm going to pull up Happy here in my machine. Once you get into the embroidery mode on the Luminaire, this is the W foot, the embroidery foot. The letter they gave it is W. It has a W right on the front. Well, there's a W button. See that right there? I'm just going to touch that. And when I touch that, it gives me that downward directed crosshair. And I need to get that crosshair right on top. I'm going to go to layout, and I'm going to touch the rotate button in case I need to. And I'm just going to move it. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, wrong way. That's perfect. That is right on it. See that? That'll work. Love it. Back out you go. So now that I've got this straight, we're ready to go. So I'm going to peel this off. Be careful where you put these because it will stick. It should stitch the way I think it's going to. It's going to start over on the H. Okay, we're going to see if all of my work paid off. So these are my Snapplique letters. We're going to let this do its thing. This first one looks like it's 1 minute. One of the reasons I really like the print and stick target paper over any other kind is because it can take the manhandling of moving this quilt around. It sticks, it stays, and you can use it over and over, which is very handy if you're going to be using it to do this. Now, one of the reasons I cut a hole in the center of this was because I used a little pair of tweezers, a big pair of tweezers. This is how I found center. And I could see where center was, like that. And then I take the template away and there's my start point. This is a dime target sticker. This is different than the print and stick target paper. Now the print and stick target paper is not always square in your printer. Find the squarest end. And then I just trimmed them up and maneuvered them to fit. Ah! It's coming out good. So now I am ready to go to the ironing station. The fabric hanging off here is not heavy enough to give me drag, so it's not a problem. So that turned out okay. These skinny things can distort. So there's the H, and here's one A, and my Y. I'm gonna start in the middle and give it a scrape. I tell you what, when I pulled this thing off and weeded these letters, I about did backflips. I was so excited. Oh my gosh, that was fun. Okay. So there's my HAPPY. I'm gonna put the rest of this away. My recommendation is to do a little bit of the letter at a time. Just focus on a little bit and get it just right. That looks pretty good. My Y, look right there. See how I've got a gap? See that gap between the stitching and the fabric? That is going to cause a requirement for a little bit of a Sharpie. So while I'm here, I want to go ahead and trim up this bit of stabilizer. Get that off. There, that looks good. So I'm ready to do the blanket stitching. Losing precious moments of your life while you're at it. Take you guys with me. Oh yeah, love, love. And get this just right. Back to the machine. I'm very, very pleased with this. You guys, don't be afraid to try this method. Start with a shape. Just go into the ScanNCut and get one of their basic shapes, whether it's a circle or a square or whatever, and save that shape file to a USB and take it over to your computer or send it into Canvas and back down, whatever you want to do. Put some embroidery stitches on it and use your scrap basket and give it a try. Graduate up to these more advanced shapes. But it's so incredibly simple to do. All right. Smarter, not harder, right guys? Look at this. Let me zoom you in up close and personal so that I don't have to hold this. I'm gonna tip this down. I'm gonna get you guys in super, super, super close. So you can take a look at the stitch, if you can see the stitches, okay? Can't see them because they're black, but there you go. I've got some fuzzies. So like, where is it? Right there. See that? If I was anal, I would touch that in with a Sharpie. There are places right there where with the naked eye I can see it. I might go back and color that in with a fine point, but you guys, I couldn't do any better than this. I'm just pointing that out, but you know, when you stand back and look at it, right? Look at that, it's amazing. And look how that print and stick target paper has held on through it all. I know it would take you 2 years to do it with a sewing machine. Look at this. I am so happy with this. This is why I do Snapplique. Scanned in the paper pattern into the ScanNCut, uploaded it to Brother Canvas, cleaned up the mat, just created an embroidery design for it. I love it, love it, love it. But if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, that's fine too. Now I'm ready to move the fabric in the hoop. It's 3 separate hoopings. My hoopings are Wean and Hallow. Those are my 3 separate hoopings. This has been a lot of fun. Happy's finished, and now I'm going to go ahead and finish up Halloween. I stitched out these letters, so I've got the first hooping finished, and now I need to do Hallow. And the way I'm doing that is just making sure I can see this crosshair right here from this print and stick target paper, and I want to get that as close to center of the hoop as possible. And on the back, and I have trimmed away any overlapping of stabilizer on the vertical lines there. So I'm just gonna put this approximately center. So here's center, this is center line here where these dots are. So I want this to be where my finger is. I'm just putting it approximately center. Okay, it doesn't have to be exact. I'm just, because I can move the start point around with my machine. If you can't do that, you want to get as close to center as possible. If you don't have the ability to move the needle, then you need to get it as close as possible. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, that looks good. over to the machine I go. Okay, I'm here at the Luminaire, and I'm going to go into embroidery and the pocket for memory. And I sent it wirelessly, so I'll tap the little radar waves. And I'm looking for Halo-CS. That is color sorted, and I'm going to tell it okay. All right, and now I'm going to hit set. It is not the same orientation as what's on my fabric, so I need to rotate that. I'm going to click on edit and rotate 90. Now it knows it won't fit the other, 90 degrees, so it went ahead and flipped it 180 degrees. So now I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to jump into embroidery. When you get into the embroidery mode, there is a W up at the top, and you can get a downward display crosshair. And that's what I just did. So I'm going to zoom in and show you. I'll be using the layout button and rotate, and that's going to give me jog buttons to move and also rotation if I need it. So now let me get you in and show you how to get this right where you want it. Okay, so we can see it's really high. I'm going to move it down. It needs a little bit of rotation. There we go. And then over. That's pretty good. I like that. That is almost perfect. So I can't get it any closer. So now I'm just going to pull off the print and stick target paper like this. And I'm ready to go. And for it to do its thing. I'm just going to hit the button. And it's going to create the placement line for hello. Okay, when you're taking your letters off, you want to kind of start in the middle and do like scraping a piece of burnt pizza off of a pizza pan. Try not to tug your letters. You don't want them to stretch because they will. Okay, we're ready to be stitched. Okay, that turned out great. I am going to go back and do a little bit of fuzz trimming and some touch-ups as needed with a black Sharpie. I do have a little bit of space here that if you get up close you can see it. From a distance it looks fine, but I want it to be a little bit better. I'm going to do the last half of Halloween over here and I'll be done with this center block. The final pattern measurement says to mark the final trim line of 11.5 by 40.5 on all four corners. That's the final trim line, which tells me the final block is smaller than that. I'm going to take my 12-inch ruler. This is designed for a regular quilt pattern, and I've done embroidery on it, and I want to have a wider seam allowance than the standard 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to mark mine to 12 by 41. That's going to be my trim line, is 12 by 41. That's not the final block size. That's going to be my trim line. I want a little bit wider seam allowance. I have a 12-inch ruler here, and I'm just going to make sure that I've got the same amount of space. The top edge of my background quilting, I've got the same amount of space above it, as I do below it. And I'm gonna mark a couple of places because I'm not real sure where the end is gonna be, but I'm gonna mark these. All right, and again, I'm gonna have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, not a 1/4 inch. If you did not do background quilting, go ahead and mark yours to the 11.5 by 40.5. Just gonna mark an even amount above and below my background quilting. Just give me a couple of hash marks here, and same goes for the middle. And then I'm gonna attempt to get a straight line for trimming, or thereabouts. Straight lines are good. Same for the other side. I normally do this on a vertical cut, but for you guys, I'm doing it horizontally. Taking one for the team, y'all. And now it says the final trim is 40.5. I'm gonna make mine 41, but I'm gonna do this real scientifically, y'all. Here's how I'm gonna do it. Turn it upside down, and I'm gonna take a pin, and I want my pin to be in the very end point of my last letter, and then I want to put it in the very end point of the first letter, and I want it to be even on the cut there. What I did was I've got it in the end point, the very end point of this letter right here. And when I flip it over, that pin pretty much matches with the end point of the H right there, the very farthest part of that. Now I know I have half, and I want an even half. Again, I am having a larger seam allowance. This says to trim to 40.5. So you would want to trim this to 20.25, right? Half of 40.5 is 20.25. Now I'm going to do mine to 21. I have a wider seam allowance. This is just for me. That's perfect. Now I'm going to mark center on this block before I put it in the quilt. I know where center is, and I know, make sure that I've got it aligned properly. That's how you trim up this block. Ta-da! That looks great. Again, I will find center and mark like this for center. I know where it goes when it's time to put it in the quilt. I think this is going to look amazing. Very excited.